Island. Pastor D planted the church, Destiny Church in Whangarei many years ago, and then came on down to Christchurch to get the church put right and up and pumping and to shake what can be shaken. And I think it wasn't soon after you arrived we had that earthquake, Pastor D? It wasn't his fault. He was there to pick up the pieces afterwards. But so there's no other person that's been as trespassed as Pastor D in the city of Christchurch, because he's the troubler of Israel for that locality and representing God in that place. So without any further ado, I'd like us to stand and put our hands together and give Pastor D a big, warm Nelson welcome. Awesome, Pastor D.
Thank you, Pastor. Awesome. You can see Pastor Marty gets his dress code inspiration from me. I don't know. Have a seat. Thank you. It's awesome to be here. It always is. I just want to give honour to Pastor Marty and Pastor Sarah. And in all seriousness, I love my brother. He's awesome. I love being here. I thought I'd get out of Christchurch for a weekend, and I thought it'd be good to come up here for a ride with the boys, a couple of the boys here. It was cold yesterday, but it was good, a good ride. And then along the way, we thought, we'll meet a couple of people or catch up with a couple of people. There's always opportunity wherever we go. So that was cool. But for me, this is always the main event. The church, with everything that we do, it's important. And obviously it has value, but it all starts here. Everything starts here and then comes back to here. So everything I do is because of Christ and because of the church. So that's always my motive. That's always my reason behind the scenes. And I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But in this day and age, you got to be a little bit more wise in things we do. The way we deliver things with everything that's going on in Christchurch and around the Canterbury area. I've had Christians say to me, you don't preach the gospel or that sort of thing, when I speak out in public. And I've said to them, I don't have to, I am the gospel. And when people see me, they see God. When they see and hear me, they're hearing Christ. And I don't have to say a verse or a book or a chapter. I just speak. And I know when I speak, it's God speaking. And that's without saying, thus saith the Lord. That's without saying hallelujah. It's good we do that in church, eh? But out there, I don't have to do that. And I praise him just as much out there as I do in here, if not even more. So it's important. I mean, one of the things I struggled with in all of this that's been happening is calling Apostle Brian. Really, I still struggle today. But in the bigger picture and in the scheme of things, outside of the four walls, we're talking to a people, and we're amongst the people who, whether we like it or not, are very anti. Yeah. So I still struggle with that, but I got to think bigger picture. So whenever an apostle's down our way and we have meetings outside the church, and I introduce him and I say, Brian Tamaki, there's an irk in my spirit, but because you know what we're like as a people, we're so honouring, yeah. But it's a means to an end, and an apostle doesn't get hung up on it. He's good, And so I'm really looking forward to him being here on Monday. It's going to be important that we try and get as many people here outside of the church, outside of the four walls. One of the things that really grieves me and upsets me with everything that's happening is the absence of the church. Their absence is noticeable and their silence is deafening. And they're still my brothers and sisters, But that, yeah, like I say, that upsets me, and I'm trying to. I even went to a few weeks ago, a Saturday night church down there, had a bit of a weekend conference, and a couple of people I know invited me along, and I don't usually go, and I'm usually but but I went along, and I thought, okay, I gotta be bigger for the bigger picture. So I went along, and it was the same old, and that's no disrespect to churches and Christianity, but it was like a hug fest, a jumpy fest, a cry fest, and all that sort of stuff. And I gotta check myself and slap myself and be careful not to be critical. Be very careful not to be critical. But I'm standing there and I'm thinking, you're doing all of this in four walls, but nothing outside of the four walls. And it can almost become not an insult, I'm trying to think of the word, but a slap in the face to God. And I'm cheeky. I'm a cheeky Māori boy from Rotorua. And I can't help myself sometimes. That's why I get in trouble on Facebook. And I'm really giggling and laughing behind the scenes when I write stuff, and people think I'm being mean and serious. And my wife will say, "What are you doing now? Who are you getting smart to now?" So one time, a few Christians, they said to me, "Derek, you should be focusing on revival and reformation and restoration and all that sort of thing. And that's what we've been praying for." And I said to them, "Your prayers are answered." And they said, "Where?" And I said, "Here. Follow me." Oh, and they really got upset. But I have got something to say. And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing our Father on Monday. But somebody asked me beforehand for scriptures, which I don't normally do or give, which is no drama. And then they asked me the title of the message, and I don't even have titles. And we were in there, and I was trying to think of a title. What's the title? yeah, I should have. Should have put me. No. And I thought, well, what's the title? Oh, okay. I said, the odds are against us. That's what I put as the title. And I know, we got million angels or whatever backing us, and there's more for us than against us, and all that sort of thing. But I got to admit, actually, it's lucky I did communion and cleanse myself before I got up here. Good man. I feel better. Yeah. But I got to check myself sometimes, because I got to take a deep breath and think, oh my gosh, with everything that's happening and the odds are like, whoa. And I got to say, well, God is for us. Who can be against us? So that's all right in my private quiet time. But I can't say that out there when we're at meetings and rallies and hikois and marches and all that sort of thing. But there's massive odds against us. And it's good, like David and Goliath. Goliath didn't stand a chance. So I try and turn everything to... and people say to me things like, wow, what you're going to get into, Derek, is corrupt. And I say, well, I'll uncorrupt it. And then I say things like, the voting's rigged. And I'll say, well, I'll unrig it. It's like everybody's giving me every reason not to. So I give them every reason to. And this is what happens when you're, not us, not you guys, when you're around Christians too much. They give you every reason not to. The devil. The who? I got a message from someone the other day. Man, I could just stand up here and tell you stories, I'll get into some scripture. I got a message from someone the other day about the Bridge of Remembrance. And they said to me, it was built by so-and-so, which goes back to so-and-so, which goes back to the Romans. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's it, yeah. And you don't want to stand under it, Derek. It's evil. There's, there's evil spirits. And I said, it's all right. When I stand under it, they'll flee. And I know to a lot of them it sounds arrogant, but it's not, Or I'll say to others, oh, stand with me. You'll be right. And they're looking at me like, But anyway, I better read this. Genesis 32. I might have spoke on this before, Pastor. I'm not too sure here. Just really, I didn't have I think it was during the week, somebody said, oh, you got a couple of words or something? And I innocently said, not being mean, I actually haven't got a message yet. And it wasn't until I was riding my bike, we're coming from, and a couple of things come to me, and then when we got off our bikes, I put it on my phone. And then last night, went on my phone, and I read it down. So I read it down, and so Genesis 32, I'll get into it, Right, Genesis 32, verse 24. It's one of my favorite stories. So here we go. And Jacob was left alone. We're living in a day and age where it's hard to be alone. As a pastor and everything I'm doing, even in church, outside of church, man-ups, getting time alone is rare. That's why getting up early in the morning is pretty much the only time you can have alone time. But it's very important, it's vital that you have that alone time, right? So Jacob was left alone, but he wasn't lonely. So there's a lot of people who are in crowds. So one of our marches, 10,000 plus, I was saying to my wife, there's a lot of lonely people in this crowd. How can we tap into it? I'm sorry to say that after one of our marches, because we had so many, I found out about a guy who committed suicide. And his family said the only thing that gave him hope was the marches, but then he lost all hope. And I thought, wow, far out. There's so many, I was saying to one of the boys today, there's so many opportunities to talk to people, to witness to people without bashing them with the Bible. And we've never had, well, you guys might have, but in Christchurch, we've never had so much opportunity to witness to so many. There's no way I could conjure up hundreds or thousands at a meeting or to talk to outside of this little bug that's happened. It's like huge opportunity that we've taken it, and I'm loving it. So I'm trying to stay, make hay while the sun is shining. I'm trying to stay very, very active and be amongst people. And if there's anything that we do, because the information and the facts and the knowledge is just overwhelming, it's just overwhelming. So I don't come from that perspective or point of view when I'm speaking. I give them hope, faith, hope, and love. Give them strength. Yeah. So where everyone else is hitting their head, I'm hitting their heart, their spirit. And I mean, obviously with that comes your haters and everything, but there's a lot of people who I know there's going to be a big return, because my cry to God is souls. Out of all of this, it's just a means to an end. Anyway, I'm getting off track again. So Jacob was left alone. It's like, sometimes it's like, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I just need to be alone. Sometimes when we're and the key is to know when. The guys we're following up all the time, sometimes just leave them alone. I heard just recently in the car here, actually on the way to church, a guy who used to ride with us come to man up. He was even coming to church. I heard recently he was in hospital. He tried to commit suicide. Well, that's how we met him. He tried to commit suicide. So myself and Carnes, we went around to see him, to help him, and came to man up, come on our rides. come to church, and then he fell off the wagon again. But again, just recently I heard he was in hospital. So a couple of the boys are saying to him, come back to man up, and he said, yeah, I need to. So it's good, yeah. So Jacob was left alone. Oh, I ain't going to get through this, Pastor. How long have I got? Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the break in the day. Verse 25. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. You guys know this, eh? The story. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. He dislocated his hip. And as he wrestled with him, that'll be pretty sore, eh? And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let you go except you bless me. So God is saying to Jacob, let me go. And Jacob said, nah, not until you bless me. And he said unto him, what's your name, boy? Nah, what's your name? And he said, Jacob. And we know what Jacob means, eh? Shifty, deceiver, liar, thief. Lucky you guys did communion, so you're not that anymore. That's bad. There's a few of those in churches. All right, let me go for the day breaketh. And he said, I'll not let you go except you bless me. And he said unto him, what is your name? He said, Jacob. And he said, your name now, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, which is prince, overcomer. For as a prince, so that's the Israel we know today, the country. But Israel, for as a prince, you have power with God and with men, and you have prevailed. Right? Go down to verse 30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Right. So, hence the title of the message, the odds are against us. I'm not a betting man, but it's interesting. One of the biggest upsets in boxing history, and I don't know if you'll fully get this unless you understand odds and sports, and because he's betting on everything, horses and snails and everyone bets on everything. So there's always odds, the bookies, right? So one of the greatest upsets in boxing history was when Mike Tyson got beaten by James Buster Douglas. And there's a doco called 42-1. Those were the odds. And you have to understand a little bit about odds and things being stacked up against you, right? So for James Buster Douglas to win, I think it was 37-1 or something like that, which means if you placed $1,000 on him winning, you'd get a return of $37,000, right? But it still doesn't give you the bigger picture of what the odds were against him. And then Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson. And I remember that fight because it was like a battle of ideologies, because Mike Tyson had become a Muslim and Evander Holyfield, born-again Christian. And he had, Evander Holyfield had on his trunks Philippians 4:13. Hey, cool, hey. I can do all things through Christ, through strength. Yeah. So, yeah, so the odds, what would the odds be of a man beating God? So whatever your issue or trouble or buzz is at the moment, whatever you're going through, if a man can prevail over God, how bad is it? Yeah. Would the odds be 50-1? Would they be 60-1? Would they be 80-1? No, the odds of a man beating God is actually 100-0. Yet he prevailed against God. Oh, I could say amen and go and have some hot chips right now. But he prevailed, right? So, and interesting, because when you break down the word prevail, is my teaching side. Left school earlier. Here's my prevail basically means to get control or influence over. Oh, come on, Pastor, over God, blasphemy. I'm just breaking it down, right? To prove more powerful and superior, and get struck down. Here's a man wrestling, literally wrestling with God, right? To be victorious over. Nike, eh? To be victorious over, right? So when you start to break this down, you start to understand the impossibility of what you just read. Because we brush over it and go, yeah. But you think about it, that a man went into a scrap. He went into a wrestle. He went into a fight. He took God on. There's no bigger, greater, stronger opposition than fighting God. Forget Mike Tyson, right? That's why I said there was an upset. There was a big upset in sport. And there's so many others. I mean, Andy Ruiz, he beat Joshua. Anyway, yeah. So Joshua, the body beautiful, got beat up by a little fat kid. I don't, sorry, you can laugh in church, eh? Yeah. So I don't know what the odds there were, but nobody picked him. I didn't pick him. I thought, man, this little fat fella's going to get beat up. Look, and then when they came out and they disrobed, and they took their robes, I said, oh my gosh, this poor fella, and Joshua standing there, he's all chiseled, and he's he's looking every bit the heavyweight champ. Next minute. So it's like it's one of these things for me personally, because we got everything going for us, but I still step back and I got to take a deep breath and say, what the heck are you getting into? Yeah, I'm looking at running for mayor in Christchurch. I know. Well, for me, that's like wrestling God. That's I'm starting to accumulate and get people around me. And when Apostle and Pastor Hannah were in Christchurch, I introduced them to a couple of people, and immediately they connected with this Jewish couple. Very smart when it comes to political stuff. So much so that Pastor Hannah come down, I think, the next week with Ann Williamson and had a meeting with them. So I've got people like this in the corner, and she's talking to me about stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh. So I got to do. I mean, before I got saved, I only read comics, and that was the pictures. Then I got saved and I read the Bible. Now I got to read all this other stuff. I got to read about all this other stuff, and it's like, whoa. So I look at stories like this, and I think, yes, if this man can take on God and prevail, then what the heck am I moaning about? In each of our cities, we've got different things we have to deal with, and if I go to Rotorua, they'll tell you ours is the hardest city. And you go to Whangarei, ours is the hardest city. Or you should come to Christchurch, ours is the hardest city. No, Nelson's the hardest city. No, Hamilton's it. See, we all got our, whatever the odds are, whatever's against us. But this just blows me away, right? So I'll go to Genesis 37, because I think that was the scriptures I gave. Excuse me if I veer off track. I think 37 verse 3, all right? So here's our man here. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. You know what son of his old age means? You got to be around and hang around. And the older we get and you get, the more favor is going to be on our lives. People who come and go, sorry, you miss out. You can always come back, but I want to stay consistent. And I don't want to miss out on any little bit of favor. I want it all, right? So more is going to come when I'm older. If you're in your 20s, beautiful. I want to see you in your 40s, your 60s, your 70s. That's when you'll really start to walk in the favor. Yeah, amen. See? That's why God's called the Ancient of Days. He's not baby Jesus anymore. That's a beautiful terminology, Ancient of Days. So it's interesting because in verse 37, it starts off, and Jacob dwelt in the land, but verse 3 now, Israel. Funny, eh? Going from one name to the other within a couple of verses. Because often I feel like that. Some days I feel like Superman. Whoo, I could fly up to Nelson. Other days I feel like Clark Kent. Yeah, you might feel like Superman 24/7. That's cool. Other times, some days I feel like the cool, calm David Banner. Other times I feel like the raging Hulk. I just feel like Hulk smashing everyone and everything. I just go from one. Anyway. So you know the story here. I won't read it, but so gets the coat of favor. The brothers find out, and they get jealous, right? And then Joseph gives his dream. Yeah? So the dream, as you know, in a nutshell, is to rule, reign, and have dominion. So some of the things that he says in the dream is to bow down. Oh boy, that's don't say that to people or anyone, right? Don't go out of here and say you want to bow down. Don't say that, right? Reign over, shalt have dominion over, right? And he even said it to his parents that you're going to bow down to me. I'm going to rule over you. I'm going to have dominion over you. Imagine saying that. Geez, if I said that to my old man, even in his 70s, he'll take a swing. So I'm saying this to get me to this, right? Jacob become Israel, and Joseph, right? He had this dream. You have to have a big ego to carry a big dream. All right? So you look at Jacob. Jacob is a picture of me and you, but Jacob is a picture of me before I got saved, where my ego was hurt. My ego was bruised. To overcompensate for my hurt and bruised, squashed ego, I used to walk around with my chest puffed out. So most males, so a lot of times in Man Up Church and Man Up, we're dealing with broken, hurt egos. Right? So the gangs shooting each other up in Auckland, right? A lot of reasons, but it goes back to their bruised, hurt, broken egos, right? So they're all puffing their chests out and they all want to have dominion. They all want to rule. They all want to reign. They all want to be the boss. They all want to be in charge. Right? But that's what has to be sanctified. And if it's not sanctified, then it's a wild beast that's out of order. Right? So the bigger the dream, because God doesn't give big dreams to little people. Let me put it to you this way. God doesn't give big dreams to little egos. You have to settle at some stage or maybe be healed. I'm not too sure who's who in the zoo and where everyone's at. But you have to settle at some stage and come to the place where you embrace your ego. Because oftentimes it's used against us negatively. I get it all the time in Christchurch. One of the most common things outside of church and from church people is, oh, Derek, your ego. And I've said to people, tell me what you mean by that. You know, oh, your pride, your arrogance. And I said, well, if you really knew me, and even if you don't know me, you know I'm not prideful and arrogant, and we probably all got a little bit of that anyway. And I've said to people, I would rather err on the side of having an inflated ego, because that's your God side, than the other side where I've been on the other side of the fence, where my ego was squashed by my old man. My ego was squashed by my schoolmates. My ego was squashed by my workmates. The only time really the ego was flourished in any way, shape, or form is when I was playing rugby. Funnily enough, get a few beers in us, and next minute. And it may have been a twisted sort of way of doing it, but I felt my best when I was around guys who would pat me on the back and say, "You're the man, bro. You're awesome, bro." It's almost like not so much Destiny Church and I guess not church in general, but a lot of the church is always trying to put you down. And they don't do it outrightly by saying it. They do it by saying stuff like, "Give the God the glory, brother. Give God the glory, brother. To God be the glory, brother." So, what are you talking about? Of course God gets the glory. How does he get glorified? Through. How do people in Christchurch see God? How do they see him on Facebook? That's why they keep trying to shut down my Facebook. Because God keeps putting him. There's Telegram and there's all sorts of stuff. So I was around, and because my ego was hurt and bruised and all the rest of it, there was particular guys in our rugby team, and my brother-in-law was also one of them, and I couldn't handle getting praise. I couldn't handle compliments because of my bruised ego, because of being hurt and being shown wrong, because of my insecurity, my low self-esteem, my rejection, and all of that stuff. I couldn't handle. I'd sort of do this and and I'd try and change the subject or something. So my brother-in-law, he would say things like, "Bro, you're the man in the boxing ring," and I'd go, I look back and I said to my wife, if I had been born again, saved, and in Destiny Church right back when I started my sporting career, who knows how far I could have gone. Because you believe in God, that's fine. God believes in you, no doubt. But do you believe in you? That's the question. And then if you show that, or even emanate that, or dare I say it, you say it, all the hounds of hell are let loose on you. So I remember our captain at the time, he was a Maori All Black, mana, staunch, everything he did, his work ethic, his training ethic, his rugby nous, everything was sharp. And anyway, one day we were in the huddle, and he said to me, "Dada, come here." This is my nickname, right? He said, "Come here." He goes, "You're going to captain this team one day." And I said to him, "Bro, I don't know what to say." And he said, "It ain't what you say, it's what you do." He said, "You'll learn to speak, brother, but you just keep leading from the front." And boy, because the way I grew up and the people I was around most of the time, they'd always snuff out my ego. But when that fella said that, man, I could have walked on water. I didn't know that scripture back then, but I could have just walked on water. You should have seen how I walked on the field in that game. I thought, whoa. And coming from someone who had fruit in that particular area, someone who had mana, and then when he said that, he's not a born-again Christian, he's not. And when he said that, oh man, my ego just went through the roof. And I understand about capping it. Well, not really, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, in behind the scenes and everything we're doing and everything we are, people are trying to pop our bubble. What the people out there want in the freedom movement and that, right? We all pretty much want the same thing. They just don't want it coming through us. Oh, any other way but you fellas. We don't want you fellas getting a big head. We don't want you fellas having too much of an ego. Why not? The way we bring up our kids and our grandkids, if you know Zane, oh, he's got a good ego. He's confident, he's bold, he's got parhesia. Sometimes I've got to pull him back and son. He had a meeting on Thursday night, and he's in the back asking me questions, uncomfortable questions. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Asking me political questions. And I'm looking at him like, and I feel like saying, son, I haven't got the answers yet. Stop asking me questions. I don't. But bold and confident. Same with the grandkids. Again, I'd rather err on the side of pumping up there, because we know God will soon put us in our place. God's God, we know that. He'll soon bring us back into line. So Israel, right? Can you imagine what that did for his ego? Going from being called Jacob, and you look at the meaning of his name, to Israel. Can you imagine walking around with a victory under your belt, saying you defeated God? Imagine that. Now, you first don't want to. You're too religious. You don't want to even think about going there. God will zap me down. I think God will really like it. You take him on. Not in a bad way. You hear what I'm saying? Try it in your own quiet time. Believe you me, you'll walk out. God's all good. When Zane was growing up, I used to love to wrestle with Zane. Put him on my biceps, swing him out. Yeah, son. He used to think I was the strongest fellow on the earth. And then I'd say to him, one day you're going to beat your old man. Not today, though. One day you're going to beat your old man. You're going to be stronger than Dad. You're going to be bigger than Dad. You're going to be better than Dad. God wouldn't have got jealous or insecure. Thought, oh my gosh, I got defeated. That little fella prevailed over me. And he asked for a blessing, and I had to bless him. So the whole thing of Joseph, his ego now was for all to see. Right or wrong, he told the brothers the dream. You know, it's easy to look back and say, bro, you should have just shushed. Right or wrong, he told the brothers the dream. So now they're jealous of his ego. They're thinking, who do you think you are? David rocks up, well-known stories that we know, rocks up with a big fat ego. And he says, what's going on here, boys? And the next minute he hears this turkey and here's him. And then he says, what's the reward? Why, you little egotistical, little arrogant. Because that's what the brothers said to him. I know your arrogance. No, they didn't know his ego. They didn't know his ego was sanctified. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to have a sanctified ego. Yeah, I've got to keep myself in check. My wife keeps me in check. Pastor Hannah keeps me in check. I got people around me who keep me in check. But oh boy, I just fly. I think I said to the pastors, Pastor Marty, one of our first marches, rocked up on the bikes. The field was full of people. We parked down the end, and I walked like that crowd like I was Jesus. I didn't walk through like this. Hey, how you go? Hey, good to see you. Hey, thank you. Hugs. Hey, shake hands. And I said to Pastor Rena after, gee, I felt like Jesus in the crowds. So you know what that means? When I stood up on the stage, guess what? What was coming off me? Yeah, because it's not necessarily, but it is what you say, but it's what's coming out of you. So I'm thinking God like this, like a flamethrower. And I said to my wife, I've never had the opportunity to preach and speak the gospel in front of thousands of people like this, and I didn't even open the big black book. I didn't quote a scripture, I didn't say a verse, but I got up there and I preached. So, just turn my page over. We're getting there, Pastor. Right? So If you look at ego, right? Ego is self or I am. I think God said that about him. What's your name? I am. Ego. So what are you saying? This is I am. He is confident. He's bold. And who he is. That's what ego is. Ego is self-awareness. Ego is self-acceptance of who you are. Right? Ego is self-respect, self-esteem, listen to this one, self-importance. Oh, I love that. Even, I don't have to be up here preaching or doing what I'm doing to know and believe all of that, because once I met Christ and I started to grow in who I am, that's me now, without a mic, you know. But I do enjoy it. It's an honor to stand here. I still got to pinch myself every Saturday when I'm preaching. It's an honor. So ego talks about your self-belief, self-like. That's a good one, eh? That's a good start. Like yourself. If you don't get any likes on Facebook, like yourself. You give you a like. These fellas don't know, so I like it. Because Facebook's all about ego. People are looking for likes and comments. For real. It mightn't be you, but most of the people out there, they start all this stuff and all these, I don't know, whatever it is, Facebooks and TikTok, whatever, I don't know. It's all about that. By the way, I'm the tick to your talk. That's what I say to my wife. I'm the tick to your talk, baby. TikTok, eh? Back in the day when we did breakdancing, that was the TikTok. The tick, we used to call it. Oh, just fellas got me drunk on joy. I must admit, I've blessed already, Pastor, in the praise and worship, that worship song. Oh, I loved it. Enjoyed that moment just for me. Even though we're in a room for just, and then our man there doing communion and really cleansing me before I got up here. Oh, self-love. What about self-love? That's ego. Oh, you love yourself. Heck yeah. Oh. We used to say that at school all the time, eh? The brothers, heaps of us at school. Yeah, you just love yourself. And we'd get all defensive and shy about it now. So, and you know what I mean, within reason. I mean, it's not, self-love. The world would be a better place if everyone loved themselves, because apparently you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's cool. But how can you do that? I'm not saying you do, if people keep popping the ego or keep giving the wrong perception of what ego is. And I make no apologies. I'm not going to shrink back now because people think, you got an ego. Yeah, I have, but it's a sanctified ego. It's a healed ego. Someone said to me, Derek, I think the power's getting to you. And I said, what power? He said, I know. 10,000 people on the march. I said, but the crowd's fickle, brother. He goes, but now you're going for mayor. The power's getting to you. I said, well, if you think a mayor is power, I don't know what you've been smoking or where you've been, brother. You can have some influence, but it's like, really? So, I don't know. I read stories and then I'll step back and I'll think and I'll imagine, what must that have done to Jacob? That he beat all the odds. He beat the greatest. He caused the greatest upset in sporting history, because it was a wrestle. They weren't playing marbles. So he gets closest to the wall. It was a wrestle. And I'm thinking, whoa, far out. Now I'll need help with my ego, Lord, because if I beat you in an arm wrestle or something, God, hey, guys, I just beat God. You'd crucify me. You'd want to, Pastor Marty, don't you dare let Pastor Derek back here. He's going around saying he can beat God in an arm wrestle. He doesn't know who God is, obviously, because God's almighty. God's. Can you imagine what it must have done to his ego? Every victory, even every so-called defeat, because there's really none in the kingdom, but every victory I savor it. Savor? Yes, savor. I enjoy it. I let it build my courage capital. I let it build me up. Encourage yourself. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Yeah, it's in the Lord. It's in me. I don't know. The false humility stuff. Oh. I can imagine God going, oh. Somebody said to me, oh, you're not humble. I said, what do you mean? Because I always say, define that. What do you mean? Well, you walk around like you're. I said, yeah, that's humble. Your definition of humble is not right. I know there's a fine line between humble and arrogance. I know that because again, I used to be on that side of the fence, overcompensate for my little hurt ego. But now it's like, oh, I feel like everywhere I go, when I get there, God's got there. I feel like when I arrive, God's just arrived. I feel like when I speak, God speaks. Somebody said to me once, this is good, Pastor, when you got life stories, when you get to me and Pastor Marty's age, you got some life stories, you got some you got some experiences. This book was written on life stories. Life experiences for every writer, every apostle, every disciple. They just wrote things down as they went along, as they experienced stuff right in front of their eyes. Life experience makes a pastor, a preacher, a very powerful person because he's lived it, not just read about it. Someone said to me, if the question is asked about what do you think the point of difference is with you becoming me, I'll say, I've been to hell and back. I've been to hell and back. The way I was raised, the things I've come through, my uniqueness. But I'm going to be careful because they won't handle my awesomeness. True. They'll look at it like, they're arrogant. Who do you think he is? I can get up there anyway. I can get up there. Oh, well, I'll just try. And if I do my best, that's the language of defeat. And thank you very much if I get 2 votes. I'd rather go out on my shield. No, I'd rather not go out on my shield. I'd rather win. See, there's habitual stuff in me and you that we say, then you step back and you realize, nah, yeah, I do it, you do it, I just did it then. Rather go out on my shield. No, that means you're dead and defeated. No. But there'll be people around me, you, and like I say, getting it all the time now in Christchurch, because as you start to so-called rise, right, you start to so-called rise, people are now scrutinizing you. And listen to that Derek Tait, he's arrogant. No, confident. He's got an ego. Yes, I have. And it's beautiful. I like me. I like being with me. I like hanging out with me. I like riding with me. No one else rides. I don't care. I'm riding. No one else comes. All good. The main man's here. All right, if it helps, I'll finish on a humble note. It's not me, it's Jesus. It's God. It's Jesus. Yeah, hello. Everything comes from him. But how do we honor him? How do we glorify him? Yeah. See, people in Christchurch, for everything that's happening, Pastor, and all of us, they're getting a taste of God. They're starting to see, because there's a lot of people, like we were out to dinner the other night, Pastor Ian and I, with this Italian guy and his partner, and their kids and that were there, and a guy rang me and he said, "Oh, I heard you going to dinner with Bob and Colleen," and I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Oh, I want you to know that guy thinks the world of you. He really likes you, what you're doing. He likes your character. He likes who you are." And he said, so much so, he said, "I've been praying for years to get him to church. He wants to come to your church." Yeah, and I said, "There, wow, I've answered your prayers." Naughty, eh? I was waiting for him to say, "What? No, God answered my..." Yeah, well. And then blow me down when we went to dinner that night. He says to me, and listen, one story out of hundreds is awesome. I mean, I'd prefer the hundreds, but you know what I mean. And then we're sitting there, and then he goes, "You know what, Derek? I'm not a religious man, and I can't help myself." No, nor am I, because he looks at me. "But I want to come to your church." And I said, "Oh, cool. I'm away this Sunday, and I'm away next Sunday with Apostle and Invercargill." I said, "But I'll get the date to you and come along." Yeah. And so meeting so many people through these marches and what have you. And then this Jewish couple, beautiful couple, the other day caught up with them about this political stuff. And he says, and she was sitting there nodding, yeah. He said, "One Sunday, I want to come and hear you, Derek." Because they have Friday, they do their Jewish thing or whatever. I said, "Yeah, that'll be awesome." He goes, "Yeah, I'm really curious." I said, "Oh, cool." But the thing is, stuff like that won't happen if we don't understand how beautiful our ego is. And if we're not just real with them. Yeah. Lots of people are trying to figure me out. A reporter from Stuff, I think, in Christchurch, we're outside their building, some newspaper, and a guy organised something, and he asked me to speak, and and I did, and I said a few things, and I don't know how I got onto it. I think I said something like, it's not about religion, we stand here, because I know they know in the eyes I'm religious, go to Destiny Church and all the rest of it. I said, "I don't care if you kiss a frog or rub a rock, whatever you, whatever your buzz." Cheeky, eh? And then I said something like, "There's not a religious bone in my body." And that was cool. So that was a short line in the middle of everything else. Reporter rings me, and she says, "Oh, hey, Derek, it's such and such." And I know her. I said, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" She goes, "Good, you were outside Stuff or whatever it is with such and such." And she said, "And we were just wondering," I don't think it was like a work call, "we were just wondering what you meant by there ain't a religious bone in your body, because we know you're a pastor of Destiny Church," that sort of stuff. She said, "My boss and others of us in the office were like, what does he mean by that?" Sort of had them a bit stumped. Yeah. And I said, "Well, I'll put it to you like this. I've got a relationship with God, not a religion." Yeah. And she's like, oh, wow. And then she's like, "Oh, are you running for mayor? Are you thinking about running for mayor? And how serious are you?" And I said, "Serious enough to be thinking about it." She cracks up laughing. She goes, "Oh, you'll make a good politician, Derek." Because of my answer, I don't know. Isn't it beautiful to be free? To have your confidence, your courage, your boldness, paisia. We know that word, in Destiny. That comes from your beautiful ego. Again, you got good people. I got good people around me. No one better than my wife. She'll soon put me in check. She's said to me along the way the odd time, you shouldn't have said that. And I'm like, oh, gee. Pastor Marty don't get that. He doesn't say anything wrong. It seems like the more we speak, Pastor, the more opportunity to say the odd wrong thing. We'll have a march or whatever, thousands of people, and then I'm like, yeah, we get in the car. She's like, you shouldn't have said that about that. And, oh, gee. She just brought my ego back into keeping me in check. People over the years have said, hey, accountable to. And I've said, you want to meet my wife? I'm just rambling now, Pastor. Thank you. Yeah. See our shirts? Styly guys. But hey, I don't know. I mean, the usual thing is, and it's good. If you want prayer, that's cool. The hot chips can wait. I don't know. I'll just give it over to Pastor Marty. But thank you guys. Love you guys so much. It's awesome. Hang on, I haven't finished. No.
Put your hands together for Pastor D. That's a good word. How do you feel? How do you feel? On top of the world? On top of your game? You feel like God? Yes. You're his son and his daughter. Bless you all. Hot chips, hot food, hot fellowship in the cafes. See you back here tonight, 6 p.m. Apostle on the big screen. Bless you all. Thank you.